So, I have a question. When was the last time you were doing something you truly love to do and you felt so engaged you lost sense of time? When was the time you were immersed to just one thing? Let me begin by sharing with you my story. So, 2 summers ago, I took a summer course on architecture, and my class was working on this project of redesigning a city. There was a day when our professor made us ditch all of our technology completely. Now, collaborating with our peers was an essential process, but we didn't have our 3D computer models that would otherwise help us quickly share our designs without having to physically explain them as much. So that really forced us to think back to our basic design concepts, think carefully about how we were going to articulate our ideas to our peers, and what kind of drawings we would create as we presented our ideas to the class. And there was just something so engaging about that process. We would pin all our designs on the wall across the entire room, and it felt amazingly motivating to see our designs slowly develop the more we worked on it and collaborated. We would repeat this process of sketching, discussing, pinning, sketching, discussing, pinning. And during that time, my focus just narrowed. Although the task was a challenge, it almost felt easy to focus because we were so engaged. And for me, that was the last time I felt really engaged to one thing. So even before my summer course, I had an interest in art and design for a while. And when I'm involved in creative work, I feel like I can be my genuine self. It's what intrinsically motivates me. I'm sure you all have different activities that intrinsically motivates you, something you love to do for its own sake. But if I were being entirely honest, it's not always easy to really focus and reap the rewards in this way, because I think it's easy to be distracted. For example, in my art, instead of thinking about things like how the formal qualities of my work will express my intent, I start asking things like, what if everyone else doesn't like my work? How will my work compare to others? How much attention and recognition will I get from people? And when these thoughts enter my mind, suddenly it becomes harder to focus and really be creative. And what I realized was that these distractions were my extrinsic motivators, like getting attention for my work, getting a good review, or if it was for a class, getting a good grade. But the truth is that the more I gave attention and went after these things, the less I actually felt engaged and actually enjoyed my work. Of course, I'm not saying that all extrinsic rewards are bad necessarily, but I wonder how often something like this happens. When we focus too much on extrinsic rewards, we sort of lose our engagement and enjoyment with the task. And I think the problem sort of comes when we become too fixated on what we want to achieve that we forget to take pleasure in the process of the activity. And one extrinsic rewards we are all influenced by is this feeling of getting attention. It's a powerful feeling. And the reason why it's more relevant to talk about today is because as media usage and sharing through social media become more and more ubiquitous, it's easy to be distracted by this powerful feeling. For instance, when you're sharing something on social media, you can see exactly how much attention you're getting through features like the number of likes you have. And suddenly these things makes it easier to compare yourself to others. But when we become too caught up on quantifiable numbers, it turns our activity into some kind of competition, and it can just be really frustrating sometimes. But there are some good news, because I don't think what we love to do is only defined by extrinsic rewards. Because there's also that other powerful feeling, and it comes when we're able to really put our focus to just one thing, to the things we genuinely love to do. It's like that feeling I was talking about earlier from my summer course, when we can really focus and engage better. And it turns out there's a great psychology word that perfectly captures the feeling when we're intrinsically motivated. It's called being in a state of flow. This term was first coined by psychologist Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, and it's a state when we have energized focus and enjoyment in an activity. In 1992, during the NBA championship, Michael Jordan experienced his flow state when he made 6 three-pointers in 18 minutes and described the experience as being in the zone. This experience of being in the zone didn't just happen to athletes. Mihail Csikszentmihalyi also noticed this similar experience in all kinds of people, from musicians, writers, artists, and scientists. They were all facing a large challenge, and it felt intense, but there was also a sense of relaxation. And during this time, they were able to achieve intense focus. In 1987, researchers published this 8-channel model of flow, which helps us to understand how we can achieve the state. And sort of in a nutshell, this model shows that we experience flow during the process of overcoming meaningful challenges. And in order to achieve your flow state, you want there to be a challenge that matches your perceived skill. So if an activity is too difficult, you might experience frustration and anxiety. But if something is too easy, you'll experience boredom and apathy. In order to find flow, you want to create that perfect balance in your work. But of course, the biggest factor in achieving your flow state is to be intrinsically motivated. So there are these two powerful feelings when we're enjoying extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards. Now, researchers don't have one single working model of how to reach your flow state because everyone focuses in their own way. But something that helped me sort of reconvene back to my intrinsic motivation is this. It's to revisit sources of inspiration. So in my art, that can mean visiting an art exhibition or looking at great artworks. And when I do these things, I can kind of remember why art gets me excited. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but if there is one thing that I can say for certain, is that I can be my most creative self and really engage better when I manage to focus on a single task and focus on my intrinsic motivation. Thank you very much.